Good evening, everyone. I'm Molly the Kush RN, and you've reached Conversations with Kush. Tonight, I have a couple of incredible women sitting down with me, Bree McGee and Sarah Gawinski from Higher States Marketing. Welcome, ladies. It's a pleasure to have you here. Finally, we've been talking about this for how long?
Yeah, it's been a minute. Thanks for having us.
Of course.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Super happy to be here.
Yeah. We met, where did we meet? I can't even remember
we
anymore.
met at Venn.
Okay.
At some sort of blunt strategies event.
Okay, awesome. And then
I have no idea.
Women's Collective,
it had to be
Yeah.
any of the women events. I feel like we've just always
been
in orbit of each other, you know.
Orbit. I love it. They're like stars colliding.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Molly. I'll think of it when I'm driving home.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, my best impression of you guys is actually from Lucky Leaf 2 years ago when we did the collective together, the Women's Cannabis Collective together. And we all did panels, and that was a really great day. And I just really enjoy being in this space with you.
Same.
Yeah.
Likewise.
I feel like you guys are always really supportive of women. You always want to elevate women, especially in this industry where it's really male dominated. So yeah, thank you for your work.
Thank you. Yeah, and likewise.
Yeah, you guys have been around both since about 2022. So just give me a little background, Sarah. Maybe you can start with your origin story. How did you guys meet and decide that you needed to link up?
Yeah. So Bree and I met at a group business coaching class, and this was beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic hit. So we definitely had some trauma bonding right at the beginning of our relationship because we were meeting in person, and then within like a month of that, we had to go virtual and just figure everything out.
Yeah.
So we were really connected that way of like, okay, we're in business. We were already taking this business class, trying to elevate our businesses. So then trying to do that through a pandemic, like we were each other's accountability buddies in that.
Buddies.
Yes. Cute. And it was interesting because meeting in a professional setting, we just kept everything super professional. We didn't talk a lot about our personal lives. It was a lot around ideating of how do we take our businesses to the next level.
Sure.
And knowing that we both offered an online marketing service, we almost immediately were like, hey, this makes sense that photography and SEO, those are both necessary for a website. So let's figure out a way to bring these together. And we initially were thinking like the wellness space, health and wellness, trying to have an offer that was really specific to that industry.
Yeah.
And then
how did you figure out you both like cannabis and wanted to be a part of that? Bree, go ahead.
Yeah. So I very, very specifically remember this. We had one of the first times of getting together after like lockdown stuff. We went and got a drink, and asked me, well, what do you? So I was like, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, I like to hang out at home and like hang out with my dog and like I don't know. And so the next time we got together, I was like, so I feel really bad. I wasn't honest with you. Like, I smoke a lot of weed.
Oh, nice.
She's like, oh my God, me too. And from like that moment, it was like, okay.
Soul sisters, sisters.
From there, I feel like it was a very natural progression from this idea of partnering in a wellness space to, just a greener wellness space. Like it all came together very quickly. It was like, oh yeah, no brainer. Let's do this.
What were you guys doing before? So you each had your own private businesses. So you're essentially doing kind of what you're doing as a team, right? But separately. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because I know, people were displaced in COVID and whatnot, so I wondered if that kind of played a factor. But
yeah, I was doing a lot more kind of behind the scenes photography, showing how brands do what they do. So a maker in their home creating this piece that they sell on Etsy or on their stores. And I didn't want to go into anyone's homes and no one wanted me in there. So it was kind of some weird transitions of figuring out how it all fits together. So,
okay. What's your typical client and what do you do as a marketing firm?
We love to work with woman-owned cannabis brands or cannabis brands that are helping to include women more in their story and in their product. So we ideally like to work with some type of brand in that sphere that is geared towards being more inclusive to women in cannabis, or really has a product that is helping not just from the recreational standpoint, but from the medicinal use of cannabis, and helping bring more women on board and feel more included, make it easily accessible for them.
Awesome.
Well, and it doesn't even have to be that your product is for women or that you're a women-owned brand. It's, men in this industry have a platform and an opportunity to support and lift up other women. So working with those type of men are always, I've worked with a few that have been great and have had really influential women in their lives surrounding cannabis.
Yeah.
And it's, it's one of those values that we just tend to vibe with people that are on that same page of understanding the importance of having women take up space, and that's incredibly valuable.
For sure.
But also that this whole it's a completely untapped market.
Mm-hmm.
Products haven't been historically made for women,
right,
or by women. And just in the cannabis industry in whole, we're vastly overlooked.
Right.
And finding these brands to support because they're making, intimate products for women using cannabis,
right,
or products where they want to help women live a better life using cannabis, all about it. It also helps that we're that audience as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
We intimately understand those needs and concerns and can help address that in the marketing.
And just another nod to the female plant, right? It's just it's a lineage. It's
Totally.
something that connects us all, right?
Mhm.
And to honor that. So yeah, awesome. Oh boy. So what are some of the challenges of having a cannabis focused marketing firm? And how do you overcome those things?
Mm-hmm. A lot of people that come to us are telling us about how, they're being censored and how social media is really tough. And, they spend all this time on Instagram and then they get banned or any number of things. And we really, really lean in. Excuse me. We really lean into the owned platform. So focusing on how you can cater the experience for your audience. So that means your website, that means email marketing, that means if you create an app, like a smartphone app, and really thinking about what this path of consumer experience you want.
Sure.
And making sure that you're thinking about how the client is feeling along this path. So that's really what we bring it back to is how do you want the audience to feel when they're beginning their journey with your website, for example?
Sure, because that's a big part of marketing, right?
Exactly.
The feels that people get. That's how you draw people in. So
it's emotions that make purchases.
Mm-hmm.
When you get that gut reaction to something, along with it being beautiful, it telling a story, it helping you to see yourself in the images, imagine yourself using this product, seeing how other people have used it, and the realness to it. I have a real strong. I really don't like using typical models in photography. I like to use real people, whether that's we had a client who brought her mother in to model her hand salve because her mom used the product every day. She has rheumatoid arthritis and her hands, you can tell, and being able to photograph a 70-year-old woman that's going to be on a website for a cannabis product, that's so cool to me.
What a beautiful personal touch.
And being able to think about how many doors that could have opened for other women in that same in those same shoes of being an older person who's maybe never tried cannabis or maybe never thought to even try it as a topical and oh, look at that. This helps. This makes me feel better. Starting in those little areas of helping to open the door for women where it's okay to dive into a wine culture or drinking, but using a plant to have those same effects and actual benefits.
Right. And a plant that's kind of had a bad rap, right?
Yes.
So overcoming that stigma and letting older populations or whoever it is that
Mhm.
you're portraying that, you know, this is okay and it's safe, and look at, there's someone else that's using it with good effect. So
Yeah,
yeah, I love
exactly.
it. Yeah. How do you overcome some of like the professional stigmas?
Yeah, I think both from a personal and professional standpoint, it was a lot for both of us to come out and be like, hey, we have a cannabis marketing business. It involved a lot of coming out, so to speak, of the
Sure.
cannabis closet and really just claiming that space of like, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. And I think being in it together with Bree has been very helpful for me to not just feel so on my own island with it.
Yeah.
And really be a lot firmer and like, yes, this is what I'm doing.
Sure.
And then meeting women like you, getting involved in the local cannabis community where there are so many amazing women that are so supportive of each other.
Right.
That has really helped me not feel so much stigma around it or like I'm doing something wrong or bad or
Right.
weird. So
Yeah.
really getting involved in the community has been super helpful for me.
Agreed.
I think for me, it was also some of those early conversations that we had to have when we were deciding, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna really make this impact and really focus on cannabis. Of like, we're gonna have that conversation with our parents at some point.
How did it
Like,
go?
So my dad was a police officer for
Okay.
30 years, and you know, it was drilled into me, you know, no drugs, no
Right.
drinking till you're 21, no drugs, no.
Did you sign a DARE contract?
He was my DARE officer.
Okay, nice.
So there was this added level of contradiction
Sure.
inside me of like feeling like I was going to be a disappointment and let them down, but also like, can we swear? Is that allowed?
Yeah,
Okay. Like I'm
absolutely.
a fucking adult.
Okay.
Like I can make my own decisions. I know how this plant has benefited me
Mhm.
and I stand behind it.
Yeah.
So if I fully believe that, and I'm going to put my skills and my techniques and like really dive into this, why, like, what is that contradiction? Like,
Sure.
what's the actual underlying problem? Like,
Right.
it's an internal thing to
Yeah.
have to deal with. And I think we both got to a point of like, F it, you know,
Yeah.
it is
Mhm.
what it is. Like, we're adults.
Yeah.
We can make our own decisions. And
I know you said
It's been
you've told me before too that you kind of had a hard time telling your parents, and you were just
Mhm.
like, I have to go for it.
Yeah.
You know?
mhm.
Yeah, I think the legalization piece helped me a lot because
Sure.
that was a big like stigma that I had in my head from childhood and my parents' beliefs around it all. Well, if it's not legal and it's not something you should be doing, you know, was the messaging that I got growing up. And so when the hemp derived products became available in Minnesota, that was kind of the first thing for me of like, okay, it's legal now. So now I feel a little bit more okay coming out that this is something I'm doing, where when it was fully illegal in Minnesota for a while, that felt a little harder for me to feel comfortable in that. So I think the legalization of the hemp derived products and then the full legalization, like that really gave me more confidence in just saying like, yep, I'm doing this. It's above the table now. It's legal.
Exactly.
And that really helped give me that push to feel more comfortable with my family personally.
Do you only work with cannabis brands? I feel like from looking at like your website, it looks like you're doing kind of pivoting off into other things.
It's been a lot of cannabis brands, but you know, kind of a vast range, whether it's cultivators or product-based brands or service providers, or kind of running the gamut of if you are in like the orbit of cannabis, whether you're plant touching or not, like we can work with you. We'll help you. But as far as like cannabis wise, it's mostly like if there's a medicinal benefit from, you know, there's a wellness aspect to it. So mushrooms or, I mean, I think that's pretty much the big one we've talked about, mushrooms.
Other plant medicine. Yeah. Gotcha. So what is it that you actually do? So talk a little bit about SEO optimization and what that is.
Yeah, so SEO is search engine optimization. And when it comes to websites, especially cannabis marketing, it's really important to be able to connect with your ideal audience and have people be able to find you. And as we touched on a little bit before, it's very tricky with social media and the different restrictions there to actually reach the people that are trying to find you. So what I do on a website is help people create content that gets them found on search engines like Google, Bing, etc. And a lot of that is all about local marketing. So,
Okay.
you know, especially with like a dispensary, if someone's trying to come in and wants the product today, they're looking for cannabis near me, trying to help with that local optimization piece so that people can get connected with people in their neighborhood.
Okay. Does it come down to basically like the hashtags that people use or like the specific language that they use, like saying gardening versus cannabis?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one thing like on Instagram where you have to say some of these words like gardening, because if you say cannabis, you're going to get restricted.
Yeah.
But on your website, you have full control over what you're saying. So then you can use the actual language, because you're not going to really connect with somebody if you're saying gardening and they're searching cannabis
Right.
or gummies, etc. So yeah, it really does come down to like the keywords, essentially the content that you're writing on your website that helps get you found when people are searching then in that terminology.
Gotcha. Do you do the complete build then? Do you like develop the website and do the language and do the images?
Between the two of us, we've learned the hard way from taking off more that like, yes, we can do these things.
Yeah.
However, we really have been staying in like our zone of genius.
Sure.
So I really focus on the visual.
I love that.
Sarah really focuses on like the SEO strategy. And then part of Higher State Marketing, like our technical LLC is Higher State Marketing Collective, which like the longest LLC of all time. But the collective piece is where we can pull in other people, women, other women in
Awesome.
marketing who are experts in those other fields. So
Sure.
whether it's a designer, an email marketer,
A website build.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
so all of those
cool.
other people, fractional marketing, you know, all these other people who are going to help bring your brand up to that next level, and also helping the client to understand, okay, if you're going to partner some of these services, photography and SEO just makes sense to partner.
Sure.
But also if you're going to do email marketing, you might want to also consider partnering copywriting. You know, some of these things that, yes, you'll get some return, but if you're really going to get maximum return, doing both of them. Like Sarah was talking about, driving people to your website. However, if you don't have a high quality looking website, you don't have images that reflect a high quality product or service, people aren't going to trust you. And especially within cannabis, if you don't build trust on your website, you're going to have a really hard time selling.
Yeah, you're already kind of like, you know, working behind that stigma, and then you
Yeah.
really kind of have to bring it to the forefront.
Yeah. So we really focus on education.
Love it.
Education, and that kind of being the forefront of like, okay, let's start with like, how are we educating as we are helping people feel a certain way, you know, wanting them to feel comfortable, making sure they feel that they can trust the brand, that they're getting all of this information before they make a purchase. So essentially making it as easy as possible for them to add a product to the cart, because they know what the ingredients are. They know what it's going to feel like. They know how to use it. They know how not to use it. You know, literally all of the information, because especially if you're bringing in people who have never tried it before, you know, you don't want your product to be the one that they have a really bad experience with. And now they tell their friends, don't try that product. I had a bad. And especially if you don't know a lot about cannabis products or you don't consume very often, like that'll just set you up to
For sure.
not want to try it again.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's really unfortunate, because
Yeah.
it's a powerful plant.
Yeah. Well, I love that education piece, of course, because again, that's, you know, how we get people to come and having a pleasant experience that first time around, or having a pleasant experience after having a bad one, is really essential. And I think education is really the crux of that. So
People don't know what they don't know.
yeah.
And you have to be the expert, and they're coming to your website. They're looking to try something or learn something, but you have to guide that experience. So when we're talking about like, you know, owning that platform, like Sarah said, you don't have to use like hidden language. You can really control the narrative and make sure that you're getting exactly the point across that you're meaning to.
Okay, great. I guess I wasn't fully understanding what it was, because to me it boiled down to like hashtags and, you know, using the broccoli emoji.
Yeah. And that's that's another thing. We really, yes, we can connect you with people who do social media in the cannabis space, but that's one thing that we will likely it'll be a very low thing on the totem pole for what we suggest.
Sure.
From a visual standpoint, like I think web first, think about like what the main purpose is, and then you can recycle them and put them on social after. But think about where you're getting the return. And then, you do have to be on social. It's just kind of how the world is these days, but not investing in social when it can be taken away immediately because one wrong hashtag or, you know, the bots happen to see the tiny little cannabis leaf in the corner or So it's just playing the game a little bit.
When is that going to go away? Like
we were just talking about this. I don't know. I have a thought that maybe when it becomes federally legal, from like an ads perspective would be my thought, but who knows? Stranger things have happened.
I've always said whenever they can figure out how to like monetize the shit out of it is when it's going to.
Exactly.
It is really frustrating to scroll through Instagram and see alcohol ads, and that's totally legal and fine. But even just organic social media marketing in the cannabis industry is a huge no-no. It's very frustrating for sure for brands. And that's why we love educating people on this approach of being able to market in a way where you can say what you mean and get the point across in a more meaningful way.
I love that you're both supporting people in their business and also building this really beautiful community of people that you bring in and work with collectively. So bravo.
Yeah, it's, you know, especially just women in business in general, you know, doing business with people who, one, share your values, but also if I can connect another woman to a different service provider who is also a woman, like, sorry guys, I'm going to suggest the woman first.
Yeah, right.
Like, we got to do our part.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, we do. Great point. How does the work that you do help brands connect and educate women in what is mostly, we talked about this. Okay, skip that. Sorry, we'll have to edit that out. With the restrictions around cannabis marketing, like what are some of the other strategies that you use to implement for brands to be successful, especially on the social media front? I feel like there's so many rules, like in each platform has a different rule. Like my assistant is always talking about, you can do this on TikTok, but you can't do it on Instagram, you know? So,
well, yeah, truth be told, I don't even dabble with social media much. Okay. And knowing that from a cannabis standpoint, that it can kind of drain your resources, time and money. Sure. So like, I mean, I think I jumped ahead without realizing it. Using imagery and planning out imagery for your email campaigns or for your website or for your web store, and then using those creatively in your social media approach, recycling your content. Right. The other thing that I think is also beneficial is when you have really clean product photography. Yeah. You know, we've all gone on a website, what cannabis or not, and the product photography, you can tell it was taken on an iPhone, maybe in a dark closet. Like you're like, I don't know exactly what this looks like. Maybe I'll get it. Maybe it's high quality. I can't tell. We'll take a roll of the dice. So really making sure that the product imagery really, really stands out. Even just from like a very like your product on a white sweep, very clean. And you can also share those images with any third-party retailers that you have. Sure. So that when consumers who don't even realize that they're looking for your product, they see your stuff on a third-party retailer and like, oh, well, that looks way nicer than all these other ones here. Right. But on top of that, you can also like what's called clip those images, which, you know, if you're in Canva, if you're, you know, kind of in that world of creating graphics and stuff, being able to have a really high quality, clean image of your packaging to be able to create graphics with, or have fun with different, like how you're formatting text around it on an email or something. Sure. Some of those little subtle things that kind of can help you stand out as like a higher end, higher quality, as opposed to using the same pixelated, like low quality. And when I say low quality, in my mind, it means the image isn't properly exposed. So it's too dark. You're not really able to read it really well. Maybe there's a big reflection across the label, so you can't read part of it. Where the product, like, for example, a lot of gummies come kind of in that same sort of packaging. Yep. And the sides can get, I mean, I have I have wrestled with so many packages, but so that it's a nice smooth front as much as you possibly can.
Gotcha.
Seeing the back of the package, and having it be as true to the right color, as like true to authentic as possible.
Yeah.
But also showing like scale of your product. So if you're selling gummies on your website, showing what it like as somebody holding it. I want to see the scale to a human. I want to see how many servings are in your bag. Like being able to just let people know, oh, you have 10 servings, they're this size, or you can half them and then you have, being more forthright with information than you think you need to be.
Sure.
Because even if you think you're being clear and people get it, like people are not on that same level of immersion in cannabis as somebody who's selling it.
It's brand new. So,
Totally.
And I see what you mean then by telling the story through pictures, just to.
Yeah. How do you, and I guess that was pretty much just product, like e-commerce for your product pages.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about how do you use the product? In what environment do you use the product? Who are the type of people that will be using the product? What is their ages? Are they typically female? Are they non-binary? Are they men? Or is it everybody?
Yeah.
And making sure that is part of the whole story. And I got lost there.
I just want to compliment you because I've seen, your website and some of the images, and like, there's one time when you showed like this picture of this tart, and again, because you're doing work with other brands and it's not cannabis related, I was like, damn, that looks really good. I want to eat that.
Yeah, I do a fair amount of work that's non-cannabis, but cannabis stuff is fun because in my head, it's like to some degree, we're still talking weed here. Mm-hmm. Like, let's make it fun. It doesn't have to be so serious. Yeah. Like, let's have a little playfulness to it.
For sure.
So.
And when we use cannabis, I feel like we can tap into that. And so, it all comes through. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. What is the thing cannabis brands are not utilizing in marketing that they really should be?
I would say from an SEO perspective, it really is about blogging and content marketing. There are a lot of people that just throw their product up on a website. They've got the product pages and they're like, cool, good to go. Don't need to do anything more.
Sure.
But again, to the point of the educating people and helping them understand more about the product, having blogs that can explain like, what is THC versus CBD, or, what ratio of THC versus CBD should I be consuming when people have, let's just say, for example, they have a product that is 5 milligrams THC and 5 milligrams CBD, and people aren't familiar with that ratio and what is good for me, where should I start? Having more information about some of that really nitty-gritty stuff can be so helpful to get connected with people that are trying to understand it. Yeah. Especially if they're trying to target people that are newer to it, or just, wanting to help people get onto a new product or a new way of understanding their relationship with cannabis. It's super helpful to have a blog section that can go into more of those educational pieces beyond just what are the ingredients in this product.
Sure.
Well, and it cements you as the expert. Having a blog like that on your website. Say
that you become the trusted source then, right? You can demonstrate that what these products are, how they'll work with your body, how they'll interact, what's safe, what isn't, how you need to be mindful about consumption.
And even more so than the expert status, do you want to share about just how like the blogs are kind of like the long game that you're playing on a marketing perspective?
Can you say a little bit more?
Sorry,
I'm gonna
butcher this, but like, so how we talk to clients about blogging.
Sure.
When we work with clients, it's kind of a phased approach of like, what is the most important thing that we need to update or refresh to make sure that you are getting the strongest return on your investment right away. And blogging tends to be kind of a phase 2 or phase 3, where we're thinking about who's the audience that you have and what questions do they have. And then on top of that, what are the keywords that this audience is going to be looking for? And actually, I'm probably just answering it now. Because then those keywords, you please jump in, because this is where it gets a little SEO focused. And she is the wizard. I play with the pictures. where it's kind of like you like collect the coins, and Google will then continue to see, oh, people come to this site and they're liking what they're receiving from this search.
Gotcha.
So we're going to continue to push people there, which then pushes your website closer up on that search results page.
Okay.
Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, when you just have the product pages on your website, going back to that, you only have so much content that you can work with that Google is using to interpret, like, oh, this is what this website is about. These are the types of searches that I should be matching people with for this website. When you have a blog that can get more into some of these detailed questions that people have around different topics that, yes, are still related to your products, but they get into more of those deeper questions, that can be super helpful because a lot of people are going to a search engine with a question in mind that they're looking to have answered.
Sure.
So the more you can have like this broader range of content on your website, that just helps give you more ammo, essentially, to be shown in different search results.
Okay. If you're a small business and you just don't have like a really big budget to do marketing, like what's one small thing that you can do to really optimize how you're seen and how you come forward in this space?
That's a good question.
From a photo perspective,
Yeah.
YouTube University is
Okay.
huge. Honestly, the easiest thing, if you're going to take your own product photos, wipe the lens on your phone. Like clean off the lens.
Basic stuff, right?
Clean off the lens. Go by a window, like a nice diffused window. You don't need direct light. Again, Googling, how can I take really nice product pictures for my website? Easy.
Yeah.
And then
Or ChatGPT now too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then thinking about, well, what does my audience, who's my audience and like what questions might they have? And maybe even doing some like crowd research, talking to people. You know, if I was going to be marketing to someone in their 50s or 60s who'd never tried something, go and talk to those people.
Sure.
You know, we all have people like that in our families or in our circles, like ask questions. And use that information to then figure out what other photos you need. So they like I said, seeing scale, seeing how big something is, what texture, or you know, giving them more photos than you think. Because we've all been on one of those websites where you're like, okay, so but what does the back of this shirt look like?
Right.
I need more information.
Yeah. How does it look on someone that looks like me? Or
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So
Awesome.
yeah, simple things like that. You can take good photos with your phone.
For sure.
I think from an SEO perspective, a lot of businesses think like, oh, it's so technical and it's just beyond me. Like, I don't even know where to start. And I think before you even think about those technical pieces, just writing out more content that's more descriptive, that's more educational, that's a really great place to start. Like if you're on your product page and you only have a sentence about what that product is, like go into some more detail. The more words you can use, the more you can describe what that experience is like and what that product has in it. All of those words help search engines understand more about that page and that product.
Yeah. It's like giving someone prose versus, you know, I don't know, text.
Yeah.
Like a text message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. So just like expounding it out and really, okay.
Yeah. And I think, that's true with anything online, but especially with cannabis. Like there's so many stigmas. People have so many questions. Even trying to explain like how, if you're taking a gummy that has multiple cannabinoids, you know, and if you have 10 milligrams of CBD along with 5 milligrams of THC, how that adjusts versus a gummy with only THC. You know, there's a lot of intricacies that a lot of people, at least I can only speak for myself, but it can get easy to forget that other people don't have this kind of baseline knowledge because they haven't been immersed in it. They don't think about it all the time. They aren't consuming consistently, regularly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's shift a little bit and talk about your personal relationships with cannabis. Do you want to go, Sarah?
Sure. Just kind of starting how I got into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. I was about 20 when I tried it for the first time, and I just had so many anxious experiences. I did not like it at all for years. It took me quite a few tries and a lot of hesitation to actually enjoy cannabis.
I'm so glad you kept after it.
Thank you.
She persists, right?
I had an experience with vertigo where
Okay.
like I had to stop working. I really couldn't do anything because it really pulled me down. And just like the traditional medications weren't really helping me.
Mhm.
And my partner at the time had suggested like, hey, you know, weed could be good for this.
Yeah.
And I think that really was the thing that kind of pulled me back into it and really gave it a true chance
Yeah.
at that point. And
How did you dial into it? What did you do? So like, were you consuming like smoking at first and like that wasn't working? And then you like tried an edible, or how did that go?
It really was mostly smoking and just trying to figure out how to smoke it in a way that worked for me. And the thing that really got me on board with it was vaping.
Mm.
So using like a PAX vaporizer
Sure.
that wasn't so harsh on my lungs, that
Okay.
allowed me to take a smaller amount at a time. That's something I have recognized for myself in all the plant medicine ways, and even, you know, caffeine and things like that.
Mhm.
For me, the smaller the better tends to go well when I
Yeah.
can have those more like micro doses of
Sure.
something. So that really helped me have a more solid experience with it and not feel so out of control. Because I think that was the issue initially, is that I just was having too much, not recognizing that that was part of the issue. Like I thought that was just the experience, is that you're supposed to smoke a lot and that's how you consume it. But then having more of that like microdosed experience helped me feel comfortable with it. And then I was able to grow that relationship and trust it, versus having these big, scary experiences that would just scare me away from it.
I had a really similar experience actually. Like I had consumed cannabis, you know, infrequently throughout my formative years, I guess, like from 16 to, I don't know, 35 or so. And whenever I smoked, I would just get so paranoid. And I used to smoke with people that were regular consumers. And so they smoke, right? And so, you know, I would try to keep up, and then I would be like all
Mhm.
paranoid.
Oh,
I'd be
yeah.
like, oh God, I'm never doing this again.
Like they can tell I'm really, really
yeah.
high right
Oh my
now.
God. Can they tell? And then when I tried edibles for the first time, and it was like a small amount of cannabis, I was like, holy shit, this is the thing right here, you know? And then from there, like you said, I built on that relationship. So then I introduced smoking, you know, once I understood, then I introduced smoking back, and then started to enjoy that process and like work through all of that. So it's funny how we get to the places where we get to, and thank goodness we do.
I was gonna say, you got here. That's all that counts.
It is fun how the journey continues to unfold too, because
Yeah.
as I've learned more about cannabis, and it's like, oh, I can add CBD into the experience too. So now I usually smoke CBD and THC
Yes.
together to have that more balanced experience. Because even as a regular user, I'm still a very sensitive person
Yeah.
that can have those like too much experiences where it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to have some of these other ways of learning about it and being
Mhm.
able to incorporate other tools like CBD that can just help even out that experience and make it more of a medicinal, enjoyable experience.
Or layering the different methods too. I feel like, you know, there's always topicals, you know, like if you're
Mhm.
smoking to cure your hip pain, why don't you try topical maybe and see how that goes? Maybe you won't have to smoke as much. I mean, nothing wrong with smoking. I will never say that, but you know, just like different ways, you know, having the drinks. I think that's a really easy entry point for people that are new to cannabis, you know.
Well, it doesn't feel like you're doing something wrong or
Right.
taboo or like that stigma. It's
Right.
you're just replacing a can that would potentially have alcohol in it with something that
Exactly.
doesn't. And
Yeah.
it's easier to be out and about. And
Yeah. And it's still that social thing, you know,
Mhm.
where it's like, okay, it doesn't have to smell like smoke, you know, because a lot of places you can't smoke now either, too. So, you know, you're still able to enjoy it in
Or
a
if you don't
social-
want everyone knowing your business
That
of like,
too.
oh yeah, I just hit it before I got out of my car
Yeah.
because I cannot handle all the people here right now.
right.
And now everybody knows all of the things about me. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you get into it?
So similar to Sarah, I was older. I was 24 when I tried it for the first time. My husband, then boyfriend, it was the one who, I guess the bad influence, kidding, was immersed in the I guess, kind of just like the lifestyle of
Sure.
cannabis for a long time. And being older, but also like this mindset of, you know, my dad and growing up in that space, I never was interested, honestly, nor was I given an opportunity because, like, you know, people don't invite the cop's daughter to parties. We tried it, or he rolled I think it was rolled up a joint and smoked it. I'm like, my eyes are sticky. Like, what's the point of this? And he's like, no, you're
and I want Cheetos.
And it took me, like, I think we tried it a couple times and it just didn't really get much. And then we went on a big road trip through a few different legal states and getting some edibles. I was like, oh, well, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I think what really got me into more of the smoking was getting a few vape carts and the portability, the ease, the like, you could have like literally one hit off of an oil cart and you're like, cool, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then from there, I feel like it's just a natural progression of, oh, well, I'd actually rather try just the plant. And again, the PAX vape.
Yeah.
Just makes it so easy.
I have never had good luck with my packs. I hate to say that out loud. I'm sorry, packs, but
okay, tell me what
send me a product that works, please.
what has been your issues with it?
I don't know if I like pack it too full
you just got to,
or
it's just too dank.
is that
too
what
many
it is?
trichomes. Well, it's honestly though, like I have noticed, so my husband also grows. And so I have been very privileged to have some really like high quality home grow and notice that if your weed is a little not quite dry enough,
sure,
where it would be great for a joint, but like if it also, let's back up. Like if you're smoking a joint and you end up with it kind of getting a little cloggy, that is a good sign that it'll probably clog up your packs. And you got to clean the packs.
Yeah.
And like, I don't clean mine as much as I should, but that does make a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're smoking real good stuff, it'll probably gum it up a little bit
sticky,
faster.
icky.
The good stuff, yeah. Yeah.
Have you guys made a lot of converts then in your life outside of cannabis? Have you brought people to cannabis?
I haven't brought people to the same level of consuming consistently, but people who now reach for a salve instead of a Tylenol or a painkiller or something, and it can be a more targeted approach. Like I had a person in my life who would have never considered it and was dealing with a lot of like sciatica pain, hip pain, some arthritis pain. And do you have any more of that?
Yeah,
I do. I would love to bring you some.
Yeah, right.
Or like with drinks of, oh, I'm just gonna have one. Do you want to try a little bit? I'll just pour,
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite things is when you can see just like the switch and you're like, you're feeling it, but you don't totally realize it.
Right.
And helping people to understand, like, it's not like you're getting drunk. It's different. And it's intentionally different. You're not out of control. You're not going to say something that you're going to regret and feel dumb later or pick a fight with somebody. Like, worst case scenario, you're going to end up eating more snacks than you were planning on.
Yeah, right.
Which that's typically my issue.
Yeah.
But so yeah, some of those things of being able to help people just see that it's not such a bad thing, and that it can actually make a difference as opposed to just using it recreationally, which is freaking great too.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I don't know that I've specifically converted anyone, but I think I have become that friend in my friend group where people can come to and share their stories or get advice and ask like, oh, what do you think about this product versus this product? I'm curious about trying it. So I love being able to be like that guide, that resource for people, especially some friends of mine that have recently had children and are dealing with some of that stigma around being a weed mom versus a wine mom.
Right.
Like they have come to me and just shared like, wow, I have realized how much this is helping me and how much alcohol doesn't help me as a parent.
Right.
So not necessarily converting new people, but helping people feel more comfortable or just be in a space that they can come ask questions, share stories.
Love it. I love it. Awesome, guys.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
It feels good to be able to share what you've learned, especially if you didn't really have a lot of people to connect with about it. especially women. Like I have a friend who I turned her on to a PAX vape, and she's like, this was life-changing. I go, you're welcome. She was more of like a oney or smoking a joint or something.
Sure.
And she's like, well, we don't do the inside. I'm like, well, the PAX, oh my God, this is life-changing. I go, I know winter just got so much better.
Right. Yeah. And it's healthy. I mean, not, like I said, I would never shun anyone for smoking because there's so many, great things about smoking
and time and place.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
there's certain, like one of my husband and I, one of our favorite things is going to our favorite little park right by our house. And like pandemic, this is all we did. Went for a walk with the dog and smoked a joint. And like, it was best thing ever.
Yeah.
So
I know you guys are both pet owners. Do you help your pet with cannabis products? Your pets?
I've put like CBD products on food and specifically for anxiety. Like I think my dog and I have a similar level of anxiety. That's why I know she is my true doctor. I birthed her. She is mine. And I don't know if it helps necessarily, but I do notice like she mellows a little bit. She's also like 80 pounds. So you're like, okay, hang on, girl. We're doing more than one dropper full.
Right.
But yeah, I think I will always reach for a cannabis product before a pharmaceutical or something with chemicals that I can't pronounce that are whipped up in a lab and like recreated into something that isn't real.
Right. I have given my dog cannabis products too, and for anxiety, he was like a kennel dog, and so he like whines sometimes, and he gets really whipped up. I think we talked about this earlier, and then for a while there, I was like, well, maybe I should give him like a Benadryl, and I was like, no, why am I gonna give this bright pink tablet when this stuff has been working just fine?
What kind of products do you use?
I usually use like a tincture. Sometimes I'll just give him like a gummy. Even I'll break a gummy down and put it like in a pill pocket.
Interesting.
So, and it only needs a little bit.
Yeah,
he's 60 pounds. I give him like a fourth, I think, of a gummy maybe.
Yeah.
So, and I know you're not supposed to give them THC. I'm sorry, people that love their pets. They're like, dying right now.
No judgment, but you also, your pet best.
Yeah.
You know the product. You're not going to give them a product that you've never tried before.
I feel like if I gave them even a high dose of CBD tincture or something like that, there's going to be minuscule amounts of cannabis in there or of THC in there, right? So depending on whether or not it's like an isolate or a full spectrum product. Exactly. So I don't know. It's plant.
It all shakes out.
So yeah.
Because either you're doing that or you're doing one of the things that the vet prescribes that knocks them out, and you're like, you're not even my dog right now.
Yeah, right. And they're so zonked. Yeah.
And that's got to be scary too.
Yeah.
Like,
do you give your puppy cannabis products?
I have tried a little bit of CBD with her. So with my first dog, I use CBD products around like 4th of July, firework time. That seemed to be really the only thing that could get her chilled out enough. Now that I have a puppy and had some CBD products left over, I have tried them with her, but honestly, it does not even seem to make a difference with her.
That puppy energy.
So yeah, I don't really feel, I don't feel that that's helpful for her right now. And she's not really an anxious dog. She more just has a lot of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I haven't. Sativa. You guys can go on adventures.
That would be cool. Awesome. Any final thoughts you guys want to wrap up about Higher States marketing and like where you're going? What's next for you guys? What are you working on?
Man, good question.
I feel like with the way the industry is in Minnesota right now, where there are a lot of unknowns, a lot of businesses that are waiting to hear if they are getting a license and, things like that. It's just a very up in the air time in general for the industry. So I feel like we've been taking a little bit of a backseat in a sense of, okay, let's wait and see how this all shakes out and then decide like, what do we want to really go hard on after that? Because it's been hard to make decisions when people aren't ready to invest in their marketing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to stay afloat as much as we can with all of the changes that are going on in the industry and best support the businesses that are ready and willing to do marketing right now. And then I think, yeah, it will depend a little bit on what happens next in the industry and then what makes sense for us to come in and step up and help people. But I think really what we're doing now is not going to change that much because it really is about the whole organic online marketing and using those platforms that you aren't going to get censored on.
Yeah. Couple of observations about that is, with dispos that are going to be coming online too now, I feel like there's going to be a huge market for you guys to insert yourself, especially if they're like white labeling and, they really want to build out
Those
that
in-house
website.
lines.
And
Yeah, I think the other thing, non-plant touching
exactly.
businesses.
Thank you. That's where I was
specifically
going
like, sorry, I keep
next.
jumping
You're
in on
good.
you.
No.
We're
Get
just
in
on the
there,
same
girl.
wavelength,
Yes, we
same
are.
wavelength.
Orbiting.
Yes. Yeah, service providers who are not necessarily plant touching, whether they are supporting plant touching businesses like what we do, or somebody like a therapist, or I'm somebody who I go to therapy regularly, and I really enjoy a cannabis enhanced session. It helps me to just be more of myself and not think so much about, and just like let it out. Remove some of those. If they're not inhibitions, what's the opposite of inhib?
I don't know. It just brings the veil down. Does your therapist support that?
I mentioned it to her, and what does that mean?
Really?
And I was like, yeah, I get here early and I sit in my truck and I like have a pen, and like, by the time an hour goes by, I'm fine. So, I don't know. She giggled a little bit. She didn't say anything about it. So at least I didn't feel judged, but also like it works for me, and I'm paying to be here.
Exactly.
So, but like we've worked with, different service providers to show what that experience looks like, especially if it's somebody who is helping facilitate, consumption, to be able to help people feel comfortable and see you as the expert and understand what the space looks like, understand what to bring, what to wear, what does this whole thing entail? I think that's the type of like kind of the behind the scenes photography that I was doing before the pandemic, that really helps highlight and offer all of the questions all the answers to the questions that can really contribute to anticipatory anxiety, which can keep people from wanting to work with you or spending the money or anything like that. So yeah.
Any reflections for you, Sarah? Like, where are you guys going? Where are you headed? What are you excited for?
Yeah, I think the education piece is going to continue to be more and more important, especially because it's still a newly legal thing here in Minnesota. So there are a lot of people that kind of similar to my parents, where it's like, oh, it's legal now, maybe I'll give it a try. I think that education piece is really going to continue to be a big aspect of marketing.
Okay.
And something that we can help brands, like Bree said, they might be so ingrained in this day to day that they're not taking the step back and thinking about what are the questions that a complete newbie has to this.
Sure.
So I think just being a newer market in Minnesota, having that educational content is going to be big.
I think that there also should be a lot of marketing towards people that are already consumers and how they can use cannabis in intentional ways that they really hadn't thought about before too.
I'm excited to get the dispensaries going where we have higher milligram products, because especially with the hemp derived, a lot of the products and a lot of the brands we've worked with are gearing towards people, first time consumers, dipping their toes in. So a lot of the storytelling and education surrounds that. So I would love to be able to work with, brands that have a higher content to be able to, like you said, talk to people who are everyday consumers, who have a higher tolerance, who have been in this space for a while, who have different questions.
And there's going to be some education that needs to be done around hemp-derived products versus now THC products coming online, because there's a difference.
Well, and especially from like a gummy perspective.
For sure.
Versus, Yeah.
And
So-
drinks. I wonder how drinks are going to go too. I wonder if drinks will stay kind of like hemp derived side. I feel like that's where it's leaning, but who
I would
knows?
love to see both. Like
Yeah, me too.
I love being able to go to a restaurant or a bar and have an option.
Mhm.
I don't drink alcohol, so I love not just having to have a water
Yeah.
and still be able to participate in the social
Yeah.
whatever. But I also would love to be able to go to a dispensary and get something that I could then mix into something at home or just, have a real good time. So
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exciting times coming, as the new products open up, and you guys will really be able to see how people express that and how they
Yeah.
want to show up creatively and be able to help them help them get that to come to fruition. So awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
us. This
thank
has
you
been
so
wonderful.
much.
So that's it for us, guys. This is Molly the Kush RN signing off Conversations with Kush podcast. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. And I can be found on all audio platforms. Have a great night. Peace.